today we are going to talk about the death of the United States penny. And we're doing it in front of Abraham Lincoln's exhibit, part of the presidential exhibit here at the National Museum of Funeral History. And I must say, Abraham Lincoln has the largest footprint in the presidential exhibit because of his many contributions to our country and, more importantly, to our profession. So behind me, you will see a portrait of Abraham Lincoln created all in pennies. And so we kind of feel like he's kind of like looking over us as we talk about the penny that he was so proud to be a part of is now no longer being minted. So with me again, Larry, you are here to really go deep dive into the history of the penny, when it was a cent, how it all began, and the years it was such a strong part of our nation, and really looking forward to the history lesson. So
Thank you. So should we get started?
Let us get started. Where do we start? The beginning, right?
At the beginning.
Okay.
And this happened back in 1775. Basically what we did was we cut ties with the European Great Britain. And Great Britain always used what they called the penny. As we cut ties with Great Britain, we decided that one thing we did not want was to use the British penny. We came up with the United States cent. This goes back to colonial times. We used both the cent and what was called continental currency. Continental currency was a paper money printed by each and every state, the continent of the United States. At that time, we were only about 11 or 12 different states or different groups, really. And we came up with what was called the penny, or the cent. You'll see at the very, very end there, that is the British penny. That goes back into the 1700s. That's the British penny. It says right on it, penny.
It sure does. One penny.
From
1913. And then on the back is a gentleman's head.
King Edward. I think it's King Edward on that one.
I will take a look and see who is on the back of this. It's if my eyes will allow me to read the tiny print. Let's see. Oh, it's in another language.
No.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. King
George.
Oh, King George. Well, there's no E. It's a George IVS, so I guess that's George the Fourth.
Uh-huh.
And then a V del Grabrit.
Great Britain.
Omnirex. Fed Defend IMP. Boy, that sure wasn't English to me.
I need more light. I can't.
That's okay. Don't worry. It's interesting how this, like you said, was one penny, and it was the Great Britain's denomination, as reflected on what I just tried to say. And so we took the concept of the one penny, which is actually rather large. It's actually bigger than a quarter, about a $50 size, right?
It's about a $50 size.
Yeah, about a $50 size. And then we went to the next one, right? And here's our actual 1 cent.
Right.
Beautiful.
And it says right on it 1 cent. And the reason they did that, most people knew the concept of the British penny at the time. So we made our composition and size and everything about the same as Great Britain did, so everybody would know it.
So we had the same size,
right?
Almost the same size. It looks to be just a smidget smaller. Yeah, it's a smidget smaller, almost the size of a quarter. Actually, it is the size of a quarter. But in the front, and this one is actually from 1844, 1 cent, and it has the wreath of, like a wreath, almost, is that like maybe...
It's a laurel wreath is what it is.
A laurel wreath.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Oh, right. In the United States of America with a laurel wreath. And who is the lady in the front? Is that the...
That is the Lady Liberty.
Lady Liberty.
Lady Liberty, and it's called a braided hair because of the way she cut her hair. We used Lady Liberty on a lot of our coins.
Yes, we used it on a lot of our coins before we started using the United States presidents. Is that correct?
Correct. Now, one thing you'll notice that on the British penny, that was the reigning king at the time. They still use the reigning king or queen on their mintage. The United States has a law that states that you cannot use a living person or president on our coinage.
Really?
You can't.
Not a living person.
That's correct. No living person can be on our coinage.
But now Lady Liberty, is that symbolic of the Statue of Liberty?
Statue of Liberty.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that and make
Right.
sure, because this is somewhat of a history lesson.
Yeah.
For those listening or those wanting to share this, perhaps with some of their students in class. I think this is going to be a wealth of information as we continue to move forth in this phenomenon of the penny dying. How sad.
Now, this is what, the half cent.
Now I'm holding a half cent, so that would be
Remember that
0.05?
0.05 of a cent.
0.05 of a cent.
And remember, we wanted to get away from using the British monetary system, so we went to use the Spanish monetary system, which consisted of a centavo and a real. 1 real at that time was equal to 12 1/2 cents, United States currency.
Wow.
So we had to come up with how are we going to do this 1/2 cent to make change.
Yeah, really, right?
They printed a 1/2 cent coin.
Wow, interesting.
And that was used until we actually went off the standard of all foreign money, and we stencilized it into the United States coinage only.
Interesting. And this half cent is
it's the
from
half cent.
1825, again with the braided hair of Lady Liberty. Again, 1825, with the half cent on the back, with the, what was the wreath called again?
Laurel wreath.
A laurel wreath. Wow, interesting.
Yeah, the laurel wreath goes all the way back to Roman time.
So why, okay, so we had, our coinage came from Great Britain's coinage, but now we have the wreath from the Romans, but we've also taken some, I want to say, influence from Spain?
Spain, because Spain was one of our greatest allies.
Yeah, so interesting that we're going all the way back into the 18th century and 19th century, and our currency was influenced by so many other countries.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So why Rome? We got the Spain kind of connection. We've got the British connection. What's the Roman connection?
It's just because it's been there forever. It just goes back forever and ever, Roman.
The Roman coins.
Yeah.
And we actually see
the
that.
Roman empires. Correct.
Roman Empire. And we actually see that in the Shroud of Turin exhibit that we have here, the most famous burial of all time, right?
That's correct.
We have some of those Roman coins that they, use to put on the eyes of the deceased.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Correct.
So there, again, I understand now because Rome had the longest reigning coin.
Right.
So next, after the half cent, and we realize, okay, that's how we make change off the real. Now we're going into a 2 cent piece. Wow. I never knew there was a 2 cent piece. I know of a $2 bill, but not a 2 cent piece.
The 2 cent piece, you got to remember that the coinage during that period of time was scarce. So instead of making 2 1 cent pieces, they could make a 2 cent piece.
So they actually were able to save on materials.
Correct.
And increase the value of it.
Correct.
So you could get... You had
more
less change in your pocket.
You could get more coinage into circulation. Was the idea behind it.
Got it.
You could get more coinage into circulation. And one interesting point on that, if you look at your coins even today, there's a motto on it that says, "In God we trust." That coin was the very first U.S. coinage to use the motto, "In God we trust." Wow. You'll see that on the ribbon of the coinage. Unfortunately, the "we" was the middle section on the highest point of the ribbon, the first thing to wear off.
Oh, wow.
So even today, it's hard to find a 2-cent coin with the word a "we" still on it.
Yeah, because I'm looking here. This says United States of America, 2 cents. Now, this doesn't look like the laurel wreath. However, it's got the impression that it's a wreath.
Right.
It's a little more, I guess want to say it's more fluffier. It has more, but is it still symbolic of the laurel wreath?
It's still symbolic of the same laurel wreath.
And then in front, this one actually is from 1867, a 2-cent piece. Now this one here has, I see the wreaths there, or I should say I see the leaves. I'm holding it upside down, right? Yes, I am. Oh, I see it there. Yes, in God we trust. I see that. Yes.
Now you got to remember.
That's an interesting ribbon on top. And then what is below? Below it almost kind of reminds me of some type of.
This was right after the end of the Civil War.
Is that like a harp? I'm thinking of a harp when I see it.
No, that's a shield. That's your
shield.
regular shield.
It's a little worn off, so
Right.
it's hard to designate or interpret. So it's a shield. And what is that shield symbolic of?
The strength of the nation. 1867, end of the Civil War.
1867, the end of the Civil War. They
strength of the
showcased
nation.
that on our 2-cent piece as the strength of our nation, and it's the first time we see in God we trust.
Correct.
To set us apart from other countries that we had been relying on to be inspired for our monetary denominations. Interesting. And so now we're moving into actually we step back to 1857 with another coin here. This one is a eagle on the front.
Obviously, the eagle is the representation of the United States, the strength of the eagle.
It's our national bird.
Sure.
Right? And this one has a very heavily printed 1 cent in the center of, again, a different rendition of the laurel wreath, but the laurel wreath nonetheless.
Right. And this was the first coin, the first cent, that we actually went from the large 19 millimeter, this is the first one we used the 19 millimeter. We dropped down from the 27.5 millimeter of our large cent. When it was first released, it had such an intricate design on it that there was people lined up around the block at the mint to purchase these new flying eagles. Unfortunately, because of the intricate design and the problems within the production of that particular coin, it had a very, very short lifetime.
Really?
It lasted for a mere 4 years, and it was out of production. It was just too difficult, and it wore too quickly.
I see. So, yeah, that one is wore down, but it also doesn't look copper to me.
It is. It's a copper alloy. Copper and zinc is what it is, but they did still use copper back then. Now, in 1982, our cents went from a copper to different alloys. Now, in the copper, the reason that we had to stop using the large cent and move to the smaller cent was because it didn't take long for enterprising Americans to figure out that a large cent contained more copper than 1 cent. So what they would do is, at today's market, you buy copper, or you buy cents in 5,000 count bags. Back then, you bought them in 14,000 count kegs.
A keg. We went from a bag to a keg. Wow.
No, we went from a keg to a bag.
Oh, a keg to a bag. Opposite.
Right. The kegs were widely used back then.
Can you imagine how heavy those were?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
But they were round, so you could roll them.
I would have to roll them.
But it didn't take long for these enterprising young men to figure out, hey, we can buy these at a keg of them, 14,000 of them. Bring them back, melt them down, and believe it or not, the mint was the main buyer of the copper.
So they were just recycling it.
Right. They were purchasing.
Let's produce a penny. They purchase the penny. They melt down the penny to the copper, and then the mint buys the material from them again to reprint the penny.
You bought it for a penny. You melted it down. You sold it back to the mint for 2 cents.
Well, I don't know if that.
That's your government.
I don't know if that's just ingenious or some smart ingenuity
Finally somebody woke up and said, hey, this is going to lose us money in a hurry.
Oh, definitely.
But
yeah.
They lost money they made it up for in volume.
Wow, that is hilarious.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sad and hilarious all at the same time, but we do know still to this day there are people that will take a concept to make money and do what they can and run with it. And you got to give them a little bit of credit because, dang, that's some intelligence. I wouldn't have even thought of that.
Well, they thought of it again in 1982. In 1982, we had to quit using copper in our pennies because of the fact that there was almost 3/4 of a cent profit for each cent that you melted down. An old concept with a new beginning in 1982.
Wow, interesting. Okay, so I think we left off on that eagle, that eagle design of a penny.
Right.
Let's see what's our next one here. We have.
We're going to go into.
Now we're going to go into we're still in the 1800s. We're in 1863. This one has actually an Indian head on the front.
Misconception.
A misconception of?
That is the first penny that actually indicated Lady Liberty. That is Lady Liberty with a headdress.
Oh, it sure is, isn't it? That is her face, and that is her hair
Absolutely.
whisking around. And how interesting is that? Now, is this kind of trying to pay respect and homage to the Native Americans?
It was. It was
okay.
It was designed to pay homage to the Native American, and that's why they put the headdress on her.
Well, Lady Liberty, you look great as a Native American, I must say.
And that one circulated for quite some time.
And now, interesting now, so as I'm going through this, I'm seeing things now in a coin that if I would have just picked up this coin on any given day, out of order per se of how him and I are talking about this, I would not see how things are being taken from a previous design and little elements are being added, because in the back of this one, like I said, in the front we've got Lady Liberty in an Indian headdress, but on the back now we still have that laurel wreath going on. We still have the 1 cent, but the shield that we had in the prior one, which was rather large, is now small and is now at the very top of the laurel wreath, almost bringing that laurel wreath to a complete close.
Correct. Right. That's designer's whim. If they designed it and the government approved it, that's what it was made of.
Still representing the strength of our nation.
Correct.
Wow.
Still representing the strength that we have.
That penny actually, that 1 cent, I shall be corrected. Penny, 1 cent, casket, coffin. We always interchange it. But the 1 cent, that one is very powerful. It's got a lot of meaning in that 1 cent there.
Now we go in. That one was produced until 1909.
Finally, now we have went from Lady Liberty to the eagle, back to Lady Liberty as an Indian, and now it's Abraham Lincoln.
Abraham Lincoln.
Abraham Lincoln has now made his presence
1909,
on the 1 cent piece.
The 100th anniversary of his birth.
So on the 100th anniversary of the birth of Abraham Lincoln in 1909, so he was born in 1809. In 1909, they posthumously honored Abraham Lincoln on his 100th birthday.
Correct.
With a penny with his face on it. So believe it or not, that is how the penny that many of us know today was created.
That's correct.
Interesting. Now, do you know why they chose Abraham Lincoln to be the face of our penny?
It was just because of the fact that they wanted to honor him, and they wanted to honor him on his 100th birthday. It was just an honor that they wanted to pay to Abraham Lincoln.
Interesting. And I don't know if you guys caught it earlier, but Larry said that there is a living president cannot be represented on a U.S. minted coin. They have got to have died in order to be able to be nominated to be on the coin.
Correct.
Interesting. When you think about Great Britain, on their coin, their monetary denominations or coinage, they have living people on their coins.
They always had the living ruler or the living monarch of Great Britain, the
Correct.
king of Great Britain or the queen.
Yeah. Interesting.
And we have like the queen exhibit out here of Queen Elizabeth. Mm-hmm. So that she was put on the coinage.
Yes, and we actually have the coinage of Queen Elizabeth on display, so you can see the British pound.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
That is on display, and all of the different, faces of Queen Elizabeth on her coinage. Very interesting. I am learning so much today, and so I'm hoping that when we're done with this lesson, Dad, I'm going to be worthy of your baton one day.
Sure. You guess you got another 50 years.
Got a lot to learn. Okay, so I'm holding the 100th, the penny that was commemorated on the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln. It's 1909. It has a picture of Abraham Lincoln, and it says liberty right towards his, right around the crook of his neck behind him. And of course, right at about his heart is the year of the penny. And then on top is In God We Trust.
Correct. And back to the In God We Trust again.
Yes. And then on the back, we have the 1 cent. This one actually has a lot more going on in the back. It has the 1 cent, the United States of America. And then what is on the top of the rim there? It's a very small. Is that in pluribus something that I've seen on?
E pluribus unum.
Yes, e pluribus unum. And what does that mean?
From many one.
In pluribus unum.
In pluribus unum.
A Latin word.
Out of many one.
Out of many one.
Out of many immigrants, one nation.
Wow, that's powerful.
The wheat ears that you see on the back, that signifies the prosperity and agriculture that the United States was known for.
So we now no longer see the laurel wreath. Now we're seeing two tusks of the wheat. What do you call it? It's not a tusk. What is it? Like the top of the wheat plant, that very soft, whiskey-looking thing.
Stalks.
The wheat stalk. So on the back of the 1 cent piece, now we call this the wheat cent.
They call it the wheat cent, right?
Yes.
Just strictly because of the fact that the reverse has the wheat ears on it.
The wheat ears, they're saying. The wheat ears, so one on either side, yes.
Now, one very interesting piece on the 1909. The very first coin that had the designer's initials on it, which caused a big, big uproar. On a lot of the 1909s, you'll find a VDB, stands for Victor David Brennan, who designed that particular cent. The United States at that time thought it was a sacrilege to put a designer's initials. They thought this was puffing the designer to advertise himself on the coin. They took it off. The following year, they took it off.
Wow.
So Victor David Brennan is printed on a lot of the 1909s, but it had to be taken off because of the uproar of the community.
So since we're talking about what's printed on them, and one of the things that I've noticed, when we're looking at the different coinages, and I'm jumping ahead here because I'm not sure where in this line of coinage that we're going when we actually start seeing the place in which they were minted is designated on the coin.
The mintage of basically we go back to Philadelphia, of course, was the very first one. And back then they didn't use any mint marks on them whatsoever. They just left them plain. Then came along the San Francisco Gold Rush, and we used San Francisco. Denver had a mint because of the location. New Orleans had a mint because of the fact that they could mint the gold down there and the silver. We had one in Delago, Georgia. That was a mint mark that was very, very seldom used and used on gold coins. We had Carson City because of the strike in Virginia City, the silver and the cost of getting the silver out of that particular area. They decided, hey, let's just build a mint here. So they put the mint not at the gold or at the silver mines. They put the mint in Carson City, not in Virginia City. People think that Carson City was in the gold strike or the silver strike. The silver strike was in Virginia City, and the ore was actually brought to Carson City for melting and minting.
Wow. And kind of find out I wasn't too far ahead of myself, because the very next one in line was a 1956 D.
Denver.
For representing that this penny was minted in Denver.
In Denver.
I stand corrected.
Correct.
This 1 cent
This was the reason they did
Denver.
that. They could keep better track of how many were minted if they split it up, instead of just saying, okay, there was 20 million of these minted. Okay, where did they come from? So we had certain amounts being produced in Philadelphia, we had certain amounts being produced in San Francisco, and we had certain amount being produced in Denver. Those are the only mints that produce the cent.
Interesting. So if you now take a penny out of your pocket and you look at it, you will see, again, "In God We Trust," along the top of the head of Abraham Lincoln, the liberty right at about the crook of his neck. And then around about at his heart level is the year of the penny. And then right under the year of the penny, you are going to see a very, very small letter. And that letter will tell you where it was minted. And the one I'm holding in my hand has a very small D under it, D for Denver. And the back of it continues to display the same things. Again, the in pluribus
unum.
In pluribus unum. I have to learn Latin still. And again, the wheat ears, and still 1 cent. So interesting enough, we now have, again, now this is the penny I think I grew up with pretty
That's
much,
correct.
right? This is the penny that almost everybody recognizes. And if you're not a penny collector, this is usually what we all have in our pocket.
That's usually the pocket change.
This is our pocket change. This is a 1996 D, again, as in Denver. Again, Abraham Lincoln on the front with the year and the small D. But on the back, we have now changed. We are still 1 cent on the bottom. And it's so interesting because now I'm realizing there is not one coin that I have held yet, except for the very first one from Great Britain, that ever said the word penny on it.
That's right.
And here I keep wanting to use penny, and we all use penny. How dare us? We're wrong. We should have been using 1 cent this entire time. But yet again, the influence of Great Britain on the United States. So this one has, again, the United States of America in pluribus unum. But this time, we actually have the Abraham Lincoln Monument.
The memorial.
Or memorial, excuse
the
me.
The memorial, and the reason for that is it started in 1959. Keep in mind the 9. Born 1909, 1809, 100 years later, 1909,
the penny.
50 years after that, 1959,
was the monument.
memorial.
The memorial.
The
Why do I
Lincoln
keep wanting to
Memorial
call it
on
a monument? It's a memorial.
It's a
It's
memorial.
Abraham Lincoln's memorial, located in Washington, D.C. If you have not ever had a chance to visit that, it's a fascinating place, a sombering place. And that's the memorial where the huge statue of Abraham Lincoln in a seated position is staring at you as you walk up the stairs. So what a fascinating, and that pretty much has been on our 1 cent forever now.
Correct.
But so that's the history of our cents. Was there anything else that we wanted to talk about history before we start talking about some of these collectors pieces?
One of the main, this one right here, which during the war effort, all corporations were asked to turn in their copper. The copper was needed for the war effort. So the United States Mint, being that was one of the largest holders of copper, they turned in their copper. Well, they still had to make the cent even during the war. So what they made the cent out of was steel. Steel, unfortunately, rusts extremely bad. So they dipped it in zinc. So what we have here is a zinc-coated steel cent. Easiest way, take a magnet. It will pick it up in a heartbeat.
Interesting.
Leave it in Houston for a couple of years, and it will rust.
Gotta love the humidity in Houston.
Yes, it's the humidity. So they had to dip it in zinc. Now, what do you do with after the war, 1944? We had a lot of shell casings laying around, a lot of shell casings. We put out a lot of lead into the air. The shell casings were spit back and just left to sit there. So in 1944, the Mint decided we'll take back the shell casings, melt them down. We started making in 1944, we started making a bronze type penny cent because we were using the leftover shells from the war.
Wow.
So in 1944, we started making them out of the shell casings, and that lasted about 2 years.
So basically, what I'm holding in my hand right now is it's a commemorative card, if you will, that says pennies steeled for war for 1 year only in 1943. The copper in America's 1 cent coins went off to win the war.
That's correct.
And so we have one of each coin minted from the Philadelphia Mint, the Denver Mint, and the San Francisco Mint. And then on the back, again, we have our traditional wheat ears 1 cent penny. It's so amazing. In 1943, Americans were doing all they could on the home front to help those who were gallantly fighting for freedom so that copper could go off to win the war. They even gladly spent pennies. Interesting, we used pennies in this, made of steel, a 1 year only replacement for the traditional copper penny, aka 1 cent.
Correct.
Again, see how interesting? Even the United States Mint interchanges the term, do they not?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Now in here, you'll see in 1982, because of the fact that the copper, again, was being melted down for its value, they came out with 7 different designs and metal composition for the 1 cent piece.
Trying to get that as best
There's 7 different ones minted in 1982. The different composition that we had. And finally, they settled on what we have today, which was the zinc copper.
So I'm holding in my hand an envelope that is basically a legend for all of the pennies that are inside the plastic coated pockets. And we have a Philadelphia large date, a Philadelphia small date. And when they say large and small, they're talking about the print size or the font size of the numbers. And then those are the copper cents. We had the Philadelphia large, Philadelphia small, and a Denver large. And those were copper cents of 95% copper, 5% zinc. And then on the lower row, we have 4 coins that are zinc cents of 97.6%, zinc of 2.4% with a copper coating. And again, those were a Philadelphia large and small and a Denver large and small of the dates. We're referring to the dates and how the font size on those pennies were displayed. So very interesting. This is a collector's item.
They were just playing around with different metals, different compositions, different weight, the small dates and the large date. Find out which one would fit better with our coinage from then on in.
And also the cost or the availability of the resources as well,
Correct.
right? That has a huge impact on
absolutely.
what type of material they used in printing
because they
cent.
finally decided that they could not continue to print or to mint those particular coins in the old composition. Now, we'll go to this one.
Yeah, you tell me which one's next to. Now this one is gorgeous. This one is highly polished.
Again,
let me start at the top.
It's not polished at all.
Oh,
those are proof coins. They are minted with a much stronger die, the pressure that's put on them is much more stronger. Each and every die is highly polished. That's where you get your polished in the field and the cameo type appearance in the actual portrait. That one was put out again. We go right back to the 9. That was 2009, 100 years after the initial printing of the Lincoln Cent.
And what we found interesting here is the images that are on the back of this one, right?
The images on that one, the log cabin, which is the first one, that was his birth and his early childhood in a log cabin. The second one you see is he's seated on the log. That was his informative years. And the third one you'll see, he's standing next to the Illinois Capitol, which he was a member of the Illinois Parliament. And the third one, of course, the last one, of course, is the White House. That commemorates his presidency in the White House. So those are the 4 significant parts of his life. And it was commemorated in 2009 with 4 different designs of the Lincoln Cent.
So you see, this wasn't just an accident when you would go to the store and you would get some change and you would get a penny and you'd look on the back of it and say, oh, the design has changed. Interesting. What does this mean? Sometimes you probably don't even think twice about it. You just throw the penny in your pocket and go on about your day. But there was some very, very well thought out timelines and kind of like an honorarium, if you will, to
Right.
Abraham Lincoln, and showcasing him continuously, even 200 years later,
Correct.
after he was born.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Abraham Lincoln brought us through the Civil War. And that was one of his greatest achievements was bringing us through the Civil War.
So, yes, and again, he made so many great achievements.
Yeah.
To the industry, he was the first president to ever be embalmed. So he really helped us with the technique of embalming. Quite fascinating, his contribution. So again, I'm holding an actually enclosed case of 4 1-cent pieces with very, very high. What would you call that? A really
high resolution.
High resolution,
And
just very bright and sparkly. And I love all things that sparkle. So actually, as I'm holding this, I kind of want to ask my dad for this when we're done because it's beautiful. Because every girl likes things that sparkle. And these pennies are sparkling at me. But on the front, again, are the 4 pennies. On the back, again, talking about the 4 phases of Abraham Lincoln's life portrayed in the pennies. And I bet you if you look in your pocket or your purse or your change or your piggy bank, you probably have these 4 coins in your possession and you don't even know it. Okay, so we have some more things that we're going to look at here. And now we're kind of, like I said, we're diving into the collectibles and some of the misconceptions of using the penny or the 1-cent piece. So what do we have next that you want us to explore?
There's a misconception of the laws regarding the U.S. coinage. You can see here, these are Lincoln cents that have been defaced, yes. Or is it illegal? No.
So it's not illegal to deface American currency.
Unless you attempt to sell that as a genuine heir or more valuable because of the fact that the mint put it out. As long as you do it, you're fine with it.
Okay, so I want to dissect this a little bit because what I'm holding in my hand are 2 1-cent pieces of current day cents, and there has been a cross punched out, an image of a cross that has literally been punched out of the penny, and an angel. Image of an angel punched out in the penny. So you can see the cross and the angel, and they actually label these pennies from heaven.
Correct.
And people sometimes will say, have you ever been walking along and you see a penny on the ground? Well, that's a penny from heaven. That's a loved one trying to say something or communicate to you, right? Sometimes they say, you find a penny. I do this, right? If I see a penny on the ground and it's heads up, I will pick it up and I have a lucky day all day long. If it's heads down, I leave it alone. And I don't know why. It's just a superstition. Don't even know where I heard it from. But again, there's probably a lot of things that surround old wives' tales or superstitions. But so let me go back to, you were saying that unless you put value to this. So these are pennies from heaven, right? It's okay for them to sell this as a novelty item.
Exactly, just as a novelty.
Okay, and what, it's okay for them to charge for the cost of creating these pennies, of actually, imprinting the cross and the angel in them?
Exactly, but they cannot sell it with the intent of defrauding somebody.
How would they defraud somebody with this?
By going up to him and saying, well, I found this came out of the mint like that. So it's got to be worth thousands of dollars because the mint made a mistake and did this.
Got you.
That's fraud.
Thank you for that clarification.
A coin that has been defaced or something else made out of it, but not sold as a fraud, perfectly legal.
For point example, because you as the profession, your profession really helps people understand whether something has been a legitimate error at the time of minting versus somebody defacing or altering the coin and trying to push it off as a fraudulent piece in order to get it into a higher value market, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so that's what we're talking about here.
So, and this is just one example of it. Another example would be the states. There was a group of pennies or a large card brought out where each and every state had their symbol punched into that 1 cent piece. It was sold only as a novelty.
Wow. Okay.
This is another novelty. This one is a U.S. cent with a portrait of John Kennedy. You can't see it at all, but it is there.
Wow.
And the reason for it
I
is
see it.
They're sold as a
Can you see
educational piece. Those
Maybe
are the two.
If I just do a right angle, kind of, it's right there. He's facing Abraham Lincoln. They're kind of like looking at each other, almost kissing.
Right. And that is the similarities.
Okay, no. Well, yeah.
That is a card that shows the similarities between Abraham Lincoln and John Kennedy. The similarities of astonishing coincidences. Aha. Okay. So basically they took a side-by-side comparison of Abraham Lincoln and JFK, and they are putting them both on the penny because in their life or in their presidency, they both had similar ones. As an example, Lincoln was elected in 1860. Kennedy was elected in 1960, 100 years later. The penny was the 1 cent, was printed at the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln. So interesting enough, there are 7 letters in each name. Both presidents were slain on a Friday. Wow, somebody really didn't have much to do that they realized they both were slain on a Friday. Well,
wow, and both were slain in the presence of their wives.
Correct.
Both were directly concerned with civil rights.
Correct.
They both had legality of elections contested. Kennedy's secretary, Lincoln, warned him not to go to Dallas. Lincoln's secretary, his name is Kennedy, and warned him not to go to the theater. Wow. Okay, so if y'all didn't catch that, Kennedy's secretary's name was Lincoln, and Lincoln's secretary was named Kennedy. You can't make this stuff up. Both of their successors were named Johnson, Andrew Johnson, and Lyndon Johnson. Each name contains 13 letters. They both served in the United States Senate prior to becoming a president, and both were Southern Democrats. Lyndon Johnson was born in 1908, and Andrew Johnson was born in 1808. Another 100-year difference between their successors. Interesting. Booth and Oswald were both Southerners favoring unpopular ideas. And if you don't know who Booth and Oswald are, they are both the assassinators of each one of those presidents. And they were both assassinated too, right?
Correct.
If you think about it.
Yep.
Wait, is that on here? Did I think of something that wasn't here? Let's see. Oswald shot Kennedy from a warehouse and hid in a theater, where Booth shot Lincoln in a theater and hid in a warehouse.
Correct.
And I've been to the actual place where Abraham Lincoln was shot, and it's fascinating in Washington, D.C. I've been to that theater. Very fascinating. Both Booth and Oswald, the assassinators, were murdered before the trial could be arraigned. Lincoln and Kennedy, the presidents, were carried in death on the same caisson. Interesting. The same caisson. And if you don't know what a caisson is, it is a horse-drawn cart that the casket is placed upon, or the coffin with Abraham Lincoln, a casket with JFK. Their casket is placed on this cart, and it's pulled by horses, and that is known as a caisson. Both Booth and Oswald, the assassinators, were born 100 years apart. We're seeing a 100 theme going on here consistently.
Have you noticed?
Wow. And then Lee Harvey Oswald and John Wilkes Booth, the assassinators, their names each had 15 letters in it as well. Fascinating. Oh my gosh. Can anybody get their hands on this? This is really cool stuff.
Yes and no. I mean, they're not easy to find, but they're out there.
Wow.
Yes.
This is really, really interesting. I need this for the museum.
Take it.
Well, just like that, I got a donation to the museum of this fascinating artifact. And yes, I'm going to call it an artifact because it's an altered 1 cent piece that has no value to it, but it has some fascinating facts that I think the visitors will enjoy learning when they come in and to our presidential exhibit and see the both Abraham Lincoln and Kennedy. And interesting enough, in our exhibit itself, Abraham Lincoln, I'm going to add to this, Abraham Lincoln and JFK are in the same spot in the presidential exhibit, and they're both on each end.
Correct.
And in between is all the others. Isn't that crazy? I'm not lying. It's been like that since I got here. JFK is on the right when you walk in, and Abraham Lincoln's on the left when you walk in. Wow. Who would have thought?
Another interesting part of collecting.
Yeah, right? Connecting dots.
It's connecting dots, and it's learning the history. The history on that one particular card just says it all.
Yeah. Wow.
Nobody thinks about the comparison of the two. Nobody would think that the low 1 cent piece would start out as a large penny from England and work its way all the way up to now it's deceased. We have no more.
No more. Oh my gosh. Well, we have 2 more pieces to discuss with our listeners and our viewers.
That is again 1982 Lincoln cents, all different ones. The facts are on the back.
So this piece here that I'm holding is again it's all encased in a plastic casing, so it can't be touched. It's from 1982, the Lincoln cents, and it talks about, this is actually talking about the different materials in which was used to make these pennies. We talked about that at quite great lengths today, right?
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. It's because of the cost of the copper. That's why we had to quit making them. Now,
there's the designer, Victor D. Brenner.
Victor David Brennan.
Victor David Brennan. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Yeah, the cost of the copper, the cost of the production, that's the demise of the 1 cent piece. It just does not make any sense. The United
It doesn't make any sense.
Exactly.
Good pun.
The United States is the last to ever use that 1 cent or the smallest denomination.
It doesn't make any sense, and we're not making any more sense.
That's correct. It costs too much sense to make it.
There you go. crazy as it is.
Yep.
And then you wonder. And
That
this
is
our last
again
piece that we're gonna talk about. And actually, I just got this from my collection from you the other day. I was visiting Dad at his house, and he was showing me some of his new finds that he has collected. And I said, "Oh, I love that." Again, it's a shiny. So I said, "Can I please have one of these for my collection?" And he said, "Sure, you can take it." What girl doesn't love her daddy when he gives her pennies? Okay, I just have to put in a funny here for our listeners. I'm gonna do a sidestep. I'm gonna talk about my birthday present. Just for 1 minute, because we're talking about a funny and the gifts that a girl gets from her daddy, right? When I'm a crystal and mineral person, and I collect rocks and minerals and from all different times. So, interesting enough, my dad and I are both collectors. He's the coins, I'm the crystals. It kind of is interesting. And for my birthday, I opened up my present, and of course, it was minerals and crystals. And I could not believe it. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I have got this amazing piece of cooperite." And if people do not know what cooperite is, it's dinosaur poop. What girl gets so happy that her dad gives her dinosaur poop for her birthday? I did. And so I thought it was such a funny story. And I love telling people that, yes, my dad gave me dinosaur poop for my birthday, and it was the most fascinating gift I ever got. Along with these 3 shiny pennies, but they weren't for my birthday. They were just for because I asked. Yeah. So I'm holding in my hand now. That was our little funny story. Thank you for my poop, Dad. I'm holding in my hand a 1943 wartime steel sense, and it kind of goes back to the one that we talked about earlier. And this one again was a 1943. So it's just another smaller version of when copper was essential for the war, and it's in a more modern kind of display case. From this one was actually copyrighted in 1994 from Littleton Coin Company. Interesting. So again, just another display of the materials that were used when pennies were no longer printed in copper. I'm not sure where this came from, but. So as you guys can see, lots to learn about the United States 1 cent, otherwise known as a penny. Is there anything else fascinating that we should know about the penny before we go?
I don't think so, other than the fact that most people can remember 4 or 5 years ago walking through the parking lot of a supermarket or the parking lot of a mall and seeing pennies laying all over the ground, being run over by cars and completely tore up. You go to the cash register, and there used to be a little bowl there that said, take a cent, leave a cent. People just did not like them. And now you go to the store and they say, well, we don't have the cents anymore, so we got to round it off. It would work perfectly fine, and there's been research done on it. And if your total comes out to 1 or 2 cents, in other words, if it comes out to $9.02, that should be rounded down to $9. If it comes out to $9.06 or 7 cents, it should be rounded up to the next even number, the dime. So if you round it up or down, at the end of the year, you will either make $1 or you might lose $2 at the end of the year. Considering the cost of making that 1 cent piece and your taxes, it's well worth the extra couple of cents that you're going to make or lose in a whole year. 1 year you might lose $1. Next year you might make $2 just by rounding them off. Other countries do it. There's no sense of us not doing it.
And I'm going to tell you that actually does make sense now. And I'm talking about the when you're thinking about something and it makes sense in your brain, right? Is that there are times when we're doing accounting. Our prior accountant for the National Museum of Funeral History, he was a stickler for us to find every single penny. Correct. Right. And I am a stickler when I like to balance my checkbook. I want to know where every single penny is. So I'm going to tell you right now, for our accountant Benny, Lord rest his soul, for myself, we definitely would be pulling our hair out with this new accounting system because we want to know where every penny is. But now with our new accountants that we have in house, they always say, "Oh, we don't care about the pennies.
That's
we don't
correct.
care about the cents." So it's even in accounting practices now that they are foregoing having to get everything down to the penny or cent, and it's really making a lot of sense now. And then you were talking about how people will run over the pennies, and one of the things that was quite phenomenal and is kind of like a tradition too is people lay pennies on the railroad track, and they try and get the train to run over the penny.
Mm-hmm.
And we actually have a penny that got ran over by the train of George Bush when his train came through Houston. I purposely went and laid some pennies so that the train would run over the pennies so we could put them in the display. So
it was very common.
Very common, yes.
Yeah.
So the
Like
penny had so much value in our life, but yet here as we're talking about it, it has no value to the bigger picture of the monetary contribution it has to our nation.
Right, but the history of it is fantastic.
So yeah, I learned so much.
It goes way, way, way back, and then we can just go through the history all the way up until the demise of the penny. So
wow,
there we have it.
Here we at the National Museum of Funeral History, Larry created an amazing concept and idea for the penny. We have an actual headstone here that says R.I.P. 1787 to 2026, the U.S. cents, a.k.a. the penny. We have a coffin full of pennies as they are now being laid to rest. And I had a concept that just left me. Yes, there it is. I had to look at it again. Okay. So I know they talked about the penny being murdered, killed, taken out of circulation in 2025.
Correct.
When we were making the headstone, you initially wrote 2025, and then you corrected me and said, no, 2026. And why did you correct me in 2026?
The reason for that was there was a few few cents made in 2026, and just for the celebration of the demise of the cent. So there was only a very, 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 very few of those made. They sell upwards of 500,000. So
wow.
There's only 2 or 3 of them out there.
So basically, in 2026, the Mint designed and created a funeral coin for the penny.
Correct.
Basically.
So, 2025 was really the last year of the circulating penny.
Wow. And I had one more concept that I really wanted to point out earlier when we were talking about some of these collector items and the cases that they're in. Can you talk just a little bit to our listeners before we leave? And thank you all for hanging in there, because there's just so much knowledge in this one segment. Talking about a circulated and uncirculated coin.
Okay. A circulated coin basically is put in to circulation through the bags. The bags are sent to the armored car companies. The armored car companies puts them into rolls. The rolls go to the bank. The bank gives them to you. That is circulation. That's how they're circulated throughout. An uncirculated coin will go from the mint into a bag like this. This would make it an uncirculated piece because it's really never been in circulation. It was not made for circulation. It was made as a collector's piece.
And when he says this, he's talking about the coins that are put into plastic pouches.
Right.
This one has 8 windows and has 3 on the top, 4 on the bottom we talked about earlier. So these now are sealed coins in plastic to not be touched by human hands, thus the oil in our fingers polluting the metals of the coin, correct?
Correct. Now the mint comes out with what's called a mint set, which is completely untouched by any human hands. They're put into a plastic bag, or plastic sleeve, and sent out and sold as collector-only items. The mint also puts out a proof coin. A proof coin is specially handled, and that's the shiny ones that we saw over there in the Lincoln set. Those are put into a hermetically sealed case, and again, sold to collectors only. Now, if you were to take that particular coin, break it out of the case, and touch it with your hand, you will leave a print on the coin because of the acid will etch into the copper real quick.
Wow. And then thus completely devaluing the coin.
Correct. That will completely devaluate it.
Wow. So that is why it's so shiny.
Correct.
Is this where the term a new shiny penny comes from?
Yep. Yep.
Wow. So a new shiny penny actually should not be touched, should stay hermetically sealed and kept forever.
Right. That's the proof coins.
Wow.
Yep.
A shiny penny. Interesting.
So, yeah.
Wow. You know what? I have learned so much, and I think we could learn all so much more. But we just unfortunately don't have more time. Is there any parting thoughts for our listeners?
I don't think so. I think we've pretty much covered the basics of the Lincoln cent or the 1 cent coin from its inception all the way through its demise. There's so much more to be learned. Each and every coin has got its own personality to it. It's just a history lesson in the making.
Well, again, we learned so much more, and for our listeners out there, if you do or want to hear more about coins, reach out to us, send us an email, comment to us on our YouTube channel, letting us know that you would like to learn more about other denominations of the currency of the U.S. Coins, and I can easily set up another interview with Larry and get another history lesson on the what would you call that?
Misconception of some
the
of the coins?
misconceptions, the lineage, where some of these coins come from, how they've changed over time. If there's any interest in any type of coins that you'd like to learn more about, please reach out to us at contact@nmfh.org, or again, reach out on our YouTube channel, and we would be happy to organize some more information. I think the Roman coin would be fun to learn more about, and the widow's mite. We definitely need to do one on the widow's mite.
Love that widow's mite.
Yeah, that
Portrait
widow's
of
mite.
Christ, the old
Yes.
Roman.
Mm-hmm.
Go way back.
We might have to do that one before you send that one off to Cheyenne.
Oh, the
The widow's
mite?
mite.
Okay.
Yeah. So, okay.
I usually send them off. Or the kid just take them.
Yep. So again, Larry, Dad, I want to thank you so much. You have such a tremendous amount of wealth of knowledge that you have brought to the United States cent, penny, and its legacy that is now leaving behind here in our nation, but mostly here at the National Museum of Funeral History, because we have such a large exhibit showcasing the penny because of Abraham Lincoln. So thank you for your knowledge, your time, and the wealth of information you've given us.
Thank you for having me, honey. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Okay. Thanks.